Hello and welcome to CourtGames, a Legend of the Five Rings podcast, funded by the Legend of the Five Rings Discord Patreon.
This podcast will focus on the role-playing game stories and lore for Legend of the Five Rings.
I'm Korvar.
I'm Kikita Kaori. And today for our podcast, we are going to talk about the tribal social contract. And by tribe here, I'm not meaning like a tribe of Native Americans or any other kind of tribal society. This is going back to a very basic unit of social order.
A broad meaning of the word tribe.
Right. So, I would consider like a Native American tribes, that's an actual governmental type organization. So this is something different.
Yeah, I mean, in L5R terms, I would say your capital F Great Clan family could well be considered a tribe, and your clan could be considered a tribe in those sense.
Mm-hmm. So what is a tribe? They are a social group that are united by, in general, common purpose.
Or some kind of common identity is another one.
This could be a job. This could be a cause. This could be within a region, but it's not necessarily geographic. It takes that, it needs that identity. This could be a religion. This could be a hobby. This could be a gang. We all live in a number of different tribes, as well as our families. They overlap.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like us here now, we're part of the geek tribe.
Right, that's true.
Like in a very real sense, we're part of a geek tribe. Some tribes you're born into, you got people who say, I'm from the Midwest in America. And they don't just mean I geographically come from this area. They generally mean I am of the Midwest tribe. That's the kind of person I am. That's who I identify with. They are my people. Right? Mm-hmm. And someone can say, I'm from New England. And we have that in Britain as well, not just Scottish and Welsh and English, but the north of England and I'm from this particular city. Londoners see themselves as a separate group. So,
Right. So it's about identity. The base contract of a tribe, okay, is the tribe will grant access to the tribal resources and provide defense from tribal enemies in exchange. So that's what the tribe as a whole provides. The members of the tribe will show loyalty to the tribe and will generally obey the tribal norms and the tribal leaders. It requires a kind of a definition of an in-group, an identity, and an out-of-group. Everybody who doesn't have that identity, it needs that to be a tribe. A person can be in more than one tribe, but they really can't be in two tribes of exactly the same type, especially if they conflict. A religion is often a tribal thing. You and your other people who share that religion follow certain practices, believe certain ends, identify with each other, and so on. And part of that identity of being in one religion is that you aren't in another religion. So they tend to be exclusive.
Exactly. There's a kind of a nesting, if you like. In L5R terms, I would say, Matsu, they would consider themselves, I am Matsu, but they're also Lion Clan, And so there's that kind of nesting thing is perfectly fine. But you're unlikely to have a Matsu who also thinks of themselves as a Kodo. You're unlikely to have someone from the Lion Clan who also see themselves as Crane Clan. Although there are people who find themselves in between for various reasons, and that can be a fun source of conflict. But most people will say, I am this is me.
In general, the definitions of what makes a tribal member, what makes you a member of the tribe, tend to be flexible. If they are rigid, they tend to have an initiation that makes you a part of them. So what makes someone a geek? Part of the nerd tribe. Well, that's a very flexible definition. There's no initiation to being a nerd. However, often there's an initiation ceremony when somebody joins a gang to be allowed to be a member of that game. There's a rigid definition of gang member that has involves people having passed this rite of initiation. And in L5R, the rite of initiation to your tribe is usually Genpuku, or swearing oaths of loyalty. Loyalty is probably the predominant feature of the tribe.
Yes, you can also get kind of, I mean, like a Matsu is a Matsu. You're born into the Matsu, you're the Matsu. But you kind of have to pass your Genpuku to be really, really inner, really part of the Matsu. If you never pass your Genpuku, then you're kind of on the fringes, but you're still part of it, but you're not really into it yet, is kind of the feeling. So, and there's some cases where you are not part of it at all until you pass initiation. So tribal members can be expelled from the tribe for many reasons. They can be unstated. You're not really one of us. They can be grounded purely on prejudice or personal discrimination. It is one of those things where it can depend very much between, it's hard to get out. It's hard to fully be considered out unless you do something really terrible. But sometimes it's no, you're just not one of us anymore. Away. We won't deal with you.
High school girls, it's a stereotype. The cool girls club. It's a tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be really vicious depending on the group. I think in the L5R term, if I'm talking about the family, the capital F great clan family, that's probably harder to really get chucked out of really fully, but you can be banished to the outer wastes where you are technically part, but no one wants to talk to you.
You're no true Matsu.
You are no true Matsu, and so we're not going to talk to you. There are specific times, like you do get interclan marriages, and that is moving from one tribe to another, sort of. So that can happen. That's the least bad. But if you go too far against the general precepts, the general understanding of what it is to behave like one of us, then you can be just thrown out. And what you need to conform to also varies. Sometimes it's just actions. There are certain things you don't do, and there are certain things you do. So long as you do the right things and avoid the bad things, that's fine. But sometimes it's no, you have to think the same way we do. You must believe what we do, or else you're out the child.
Especially the tribal level of a contract. It's not, the rules aren't written for tribal. That's the big thing. No one has stated the rules by which a tribe is a tribe, okay? And therefore, this whole conformity to this tribal ideal is not only how you stay in or get kicked out of the tribe, it's also how you advance in the social order within the tribe. How you don't go up by age very often in a tribe. That's a family structure thing, all right? In a tribe, how focused you are, how well you conform, your degree of radicalism or your degree of enthusiasm to the tribal ideals, and how much you act according to that degree of radicalism, degree of enthusiasm to the tribal ideals, whatever that tribe might be, is going to determine your station within the tribe.
Age can come to a little bit, but it's like this person has been a really good member of this tribe for a long time. But they can easily be overtaken by someone who's just more radical.
Right. So in something like the Matsu, which we've talked about, okay, yes, it's bloodline stuff. You could be born into it, but you're not anywhere important in that social order of the Matsu until you prove yourself by showing that you truly believe in the Matsu ideals. And that is by becoming a great warrior, honoring your ancestors, but honoring them in a very specific Matsu-ish kind of way. So you might be placed highly in a governmental type position, and we'll talk about the governmental ranks, but you're not having the social status associated with that unless you're devoted. So if I am a peaceful artist, I could be a very highly ranked Matsu who's just a peaceful artist. I just had the right birth, or my Lord put me in a high fixed position based on the governmental structure. We'll talk about that in a minute. but I'm not going to receive major kudos from all the other Matsu in my Matsu tribe without that value to the tribe that shows that I am enthusiastic about and work towards the tribe ideals.
I'll give you a lore example is Akodo Toturi, because technically speaking, due to an accident of birth and his brother getting an arrow through the eye, he's officially clan champion. But nobody felt he was particularly lionish. He spent too much time with the Phoenix. And he's also swanning off in the capital being Emerald champion. And that none of that felt particularly lion. So when Tsuko said, sod this, I'm avenging Araso, I declare myself to be the leader of the Lion Clan, basically pretty much everyone went along with it, because while Toturi was, in terms of like his status score, his government status was very high, but his tribal status was very bad.
Exactly.
That's exactly this kind of conflict we're talking about.
Right. Generally, the paramount virtue that one has of a tribe is loyalty to the tribe. Okay, that's the biggest virtue. Not the same as government.
No.
The leader, but you can have a leader of the tribe that's not the dictated leader, government leader. Okay.
Yeah.
It tends to be enforced by tribal leadership or tribal members. So either the leader of the tribe, the person who has been picked, can basically, say, you're not part of my group anymore, mean girls. Or the other tribal members will say, you're not part of our group specifically.
This is with someone who's not technically a leader, but isn't, I hate to use this term, influencer. Someone who exemplifies the virtues, even if they themselves don't have a leadership position. If they start saying, this person is not truly one of us, and everyone goes, well, this person absolutely embodies every single virtue we believe in. They must be right. That can, the kind of peer pressure thing can be very powerful. So one of the things we talk about with these is what happens when this social contract is broken. An obvious one is being exiled from the tribe. In some cases, death can be preferable. In some situations, being exiled from the tribe really is pretty fatal, because then you just don't have access to anything. You're not even supposed to be on tribal lands, and how you're going to survive on your own, all that sort of thing. So sometimes death is the only expulsion is death, or a last-ditch method to try and prove your loyalty, which is kind of the lion death seeker approach. You have essentially been exiled from the tribe, but if you do this one thing, that sort of thing. So that is a very common one, is just you are no longer part of the tribe. You must leave. And that can be very isolating and dangerous, because now you have to survive on your own. Violence can be used, and that isn't necessarily, this is kind of bound up with the next one, but physical violence can be used against people who are considered to have strayed from the ideals. And there's also social demotion, which can be social violence, social exclusion. You're not technically thrown out, but no one talks to you and no one's inviting you to the good parties. And you have no connections anymore in society.
Mm-hmm. And it could be just social violence without actual demotion, which is like, I'm going to mock you in front of your peers. That's a social violence done on you. You haven't changed permanent position in the social pecking order, but you've been hurt.
You've taken social damage in a very real sense. So your social standing has been damaged, and that limits what you are capable of doing and what resources you have access to and who will talk to you and who will help you and all that sort of stuff. Now, on the other end, of course, is what happens if a member of the tribe feels that it's not broken in terms of, we think you have failed the tribe. What happens if someone feels they have been failed by the tribe? And obviously, one way is just leaving. But that's not always necessarily all that easy, depending on the size and influence of the tribe, because removing yourself is obviously a big violation of the loyalty to the tribe kind of ethos. If you're saying, well, I'm no longer a member of that tribe, well, you may get punished for not being loyal to the tribe anymore. So sometimes exiling yourself can be very dangerous.
Right. They might come after you and say, you know our secrets. We're going to hurt you.
How dare you betray us?
So when this is translated into Rokugan, as we said, a clan, like a great clan, or even a family, capital F, is kind of like between a tribal and a governmental social contract. And we'll talk a little bit about government, either this episode or next episode. So hang in there with us. Clans evolve their clan characteristics as favored ideals over time. So let's say Scorpion. Scorpion started out, most governments, bigger organization starts out from this tribal idea. People with a similar ideals, thoughts, are kind of selected for in a tribal structure because your devotion to the ideals of the tribe kind of is what gets you advancing in a tribal structure. And so that's where the clan stereotypes end up playing out, in that Scorpion, who are sneaky, are going to be favored in the Scorpion clan structure, and therefore the Scorpion clan will get a reputation of being the sneaky people. So all the clans have this kind of tribalite structure. And it's funny because the fandom for L5R also ends up in a tribal-like structure.
Yeah.
Because these are the people who like the Scorpion clan or the Crane clan or the Lion clan. And therefore their devotion, how much they like the ideal, and show they like the ideal through their actions, ends up with social promotion, which ends up with hierarchy. And it's basically a tribal structure. So all sorts of things can be in L5R, including the OOC stuff, ends up in these tribal lines. But these can be military organizations, ninja factions. They could be group of villagers in a region. They can be kabuki fans. They can be anything, really. Moon cults.
Absolutely, yes. And you're talking about the clan stereotypes. Yeah, the clan stereotypes come both from the individual clans and families acting within, their tribal, the tribal culture, but it's also part of the in-group, out-group thing. We are this is who we are, this is our identity. But it's also the people saying, and those people who aren't us, they all act like this. That's why they're bad, and that's why we're better. And so those stereotypes get reflected back on them and exaggerated because of, again, that kind of tribal feeling. Here's who we are. Here's who they are.
And I'm going to do a brief segue because we can't escape it. In our modern world, we have our families. We have our various respective governments. And our government, our nation as is our governmental social contract. And our individual families are our familial social contract. There is a very, very significant split going on in modern, at least American politics, and I think actually it's pretty fair to say in world politics going on right now, between liberals and conservatives. And if you look at the characteristics of those groups, they are basically tribal groups. They're running on a tribal contract where your devotion to your ideals of your group elevates you in a position within what structure they may be. And tribes don't need very much. That conflict between that and the existing governmental organizations ends up being very much played out. So if you're wondering how could these little tribes end up dominating all of discourse and how you think and how you act, well, turn on the news. You can totally see it, and that's worth thinking about when you're thinking about the big divisions in how the clans operate and why they would conflict so much that it ends up evolving very quickly towards violence and warfare between the clans in Rokugan. And why it's not easy for the crane and the lion to get together to face a common enemy.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
Despite the fact that from the outside it looks so obvious, but It really isn't, sadly. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say the power is that great, or even greater, but it's so splitting. It could be very difficult for a samurai to even think about getting along with somebody from the enemy tribe because of the same factors that color that within our society, even if the differences are small. Seem small.
Yeah, and it is not just American politics. It's happening in Britain as well. So
I didn't want to spend long on time on that, but it's worth it. Yeah, but it's easy to see how wars and stuff happen that way. If you take that leap and go, oh yeah, that's what's happening.
So that's been our topic for now. We'll call it to Fortune and Strife, our affiliated actual play podcast, and we must also shout out our friends at D20 Radio, who have a huge amount of role-playing game related podcasts. So there's something in there for anyone at D20 Radio.
Our content is funded by the Community Discord Patreon, which supports our editing costs, as well as our website, where you can see and store some longer-term information, summary of our podcasts, the results of our competitions that we've had, one-page adventures, all kinds of other RPG tools, and more. For our patrons, we will have special bonus content like adventure seeds, early access, and other things as we think of them. Online, you can find us at courtgamespod.com, at twitter.com/courtgamespod, and on Patreon at patreon.com/courtgames. But that is it for us this week. This is Kakita Kaori. May the fortunes favor you.
And I have been Korvar, and until we meet again, keep your jade handy.
Correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com